Sorry, this still has chisel on
That will be changed tonight.
it. Okay, Matthew.
Here.
Hack.
Here.
Goldowski here, Jaeger.
Here.
Geckerman.
Yeah.
We have a quorum, so we'll get the report on public notice.
Public notices were emailed to the Village of North Fond du Lac, Spillman Public Library, posted agendas and mailed them to KFIZ 107.1 The Bull, the editor of the Reporter, WFDL Radio, on Friday, May 13th, 2022. Agendas were also posted on all main doors for this in all the school buildings at district office, Friendship, Bessie Allen, and Horseman.
Item D, Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay, then the next item is the board workshop on superintendency hiring process.
Well, thanks a lot, Steve. So we are fortunate to have Ted Knightsky of CISA 6, who will give you a little bit perspective on what's going on with superintendency searches now, give you some input, be able to answer any questions, and we'll see where that conversation goes. So I'll turn it over to you, Ted.
So good evening, North Fond du Lac. Thank you guys for allowing me to come in virtually. I just finished another school board meeting here about 40 minutes ago, and there was no way for me to physically get up to North Fondy, so I'm glad that you guys were letting me come this way. The CISA helicopter was out of fuel. So what I wanted to share with you is kind of the conditions. Now, I'm not sure what Aaron's all briefed you on, but so CISA 6, as your CISA, we do superintendent searches. And we've successfully placed in the last 2 years at Oshkosh, Little Chute, Oakfield, Lamira, and a bunch of other districts in the region. When Aaron called me and confided in me kind of what's the direction of what's going on, one of the things I said to him was, let's give the board a couple of options here, because if you wanted to approach hiring a superintendent for this year yet, I would tell you that we could run out that process. It would be a little unconventional, but in a good way. So last year, we had the superintendent of Oshkosh resign at the right about this time period. And we had gone through the interview process and hired in a month. The Oshkosh School Board, however, decided like there's some things that we're not going to do to ensure we can get this done correctly. So the CISA 6 process works multiple ways, but I do believe that if you as a board wanted to fill this before July 1st, that's very possible. As a matter of fact, I put together a timeline. And at the same time, if you wanted to wait until mid-year next year, then I have another timeline for that. But I wanted to hear from you as a board and have Aaron and I help facilitate a conversation. Like, what is your desired state? What is your preference?
Well, first I wonder, and not to backtrack or that, but if you could you just give us an overview of the typical process. I'm the only member that went through before, so it's new to the other members. You know, the
Sure.
usual season, if you will, or how it typically works when guys decide or ladies decide to move on or retire or go get a different job someplace.
Yeah, so normally, you know, so let's say that this was, if we were talking, you know, a regular search process where we know in January that we would want to be posting the position. What we would do is you as a board and I would meet. We would identify the key characteristics that we want in the superintendent. And then we would put together a posting, we would post, and then I and a team of 2 other superintendents. So in this case, if you chose to go this direction, it would be Dr. Mark Hansen, who is the superintendent of schools for the Elmbrook School District, and then Tara Villalobos, who is the superintendent of schools for the Holy Hill Area School District. So 1 small, 1 large, 1 male, 1 female, so that we can make sure that we go through all those pieces. We would then put together that posting, and we would post the position for usually 3 weeks. And at that time, we would start recruiting and calling people, and we would create a district profile, so our communications team would work with your team, and create like, this is what North Fond du Lac is all about, all the communication pieces. Then we would screen after the 3 weeks. So when I say we, that would be myself and the other two superintendents. And then I would come to you with 5 finalists that you and I in closed session would go through, and we rank order them, and then we come up with 3 finalists. And then we do all the press releases, all of that information, and we put that out. And then we have an interview day where there's a stakeholder group, so teachers, administrators, parents, community members sit, and they do a presentation to that group, and then they come in and do a presentation to the board group. The stakeholder group provides feedback, but never a ranking to the board. So the stakeholder group does not say like, hey, this is our first choice, our second choice, our third choice, because you are the school board. You have one employee. So when I was with you last time, when we talked about what's a high-performing board look like, school board only hires and evaluates one person. So the idea of giving other people that authority, it's just a bad idea. Plus, if their number 1 is your number 3, then you're in a pickle. So we get their feedback, and you as a board finalize that process. Then we stay in closed session. I have a rapid consensus process that we use. The longest it's ever taken a board to finalize their finalist was 35 minutes. Because again, you have an idea what you want to do, and we use a consensus process. And then that night, I usually call the finalists, make an offer, and then I negotiate the contract between the board and the superintendent so that you guys maintain a good relationship. Because it always gets really weird if the board and the new employees coming in and saying like, you know, I'd like to make 147 and have 20 vacation days, and you're like, can you leave the room so we can talk about it? And then they come back and you say, we're gonna pay you 145.5, and we're gonna give you, it's just weird. So I act as the board's rep and then negotiate all that. And then usually within 2 weeks after that, at an open board meeting, you appoint your superintendent of schools and you announce who it is. That would be normal. So I apologize, I don't have a visual for that, but usually it's about a 2.5 month process.
Okay, and then that's, she said that, you know, there's variances between the search firms, but that's the general process that most will use and time-wise is what I'm, right?
Yes, the difference is between us and other search firms is one, your success is a reflection of our success. And the only reason I even started taking on superintendent searches was a lot of the search firms come from out of state or hire retired superintendents of schools who like place their friends. And having a strong, trusting relationship with you as a school board is something that we want to do. And we also want to place people who are going to, you know, sustain and bring the district to the next level. So we can move pretty rapidly compared to most because everybody's in tune. And just so you know, I did call the other consultants and ask them if you as a board decided you wanted to go now, they are available. And then I can share with you in a moment, you know, the modified timeline if you guys want to move quickly like Oshkosh did.
Well, could you give us that modified timeline?
Sure, so what I would do is instead of us meeting in person, is I would send you a survey asking you 3 questions and then collecting all 5 board members' inputs. So what are the qualities you want in the next superintendent of schools? What experiences do you want in the next superintendent of schools? And what values do you want in the next superintendent of schools? I compile that and then create a posting. If that's the way we would go, you would get that with an expectation that the board would turn that around back to me within 2 days. And then I would work directly with the school board president, and you guys would give him or her the authority to negotiate out pieces from there. Then I would post it, and I'm just gonna look at my notes here real quick. I believe we could get that posted by June 27th, if you wanted to go now. And then, I'm sorry, May 27th. So we would get that posted by next Friday, with the expectation that we would close the search on June 10th. And that you as a board would be interviewing on June 30th. And then we would be interviewing from 9 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon. And we always try to do that during the day so that it's convenient for all parties. And I know that some of you would have to take off of work, which is why we would be adopting that timeline now. If we do it by June 20th, the interviews, that puts you in a position where by, before July, that you would name your finalists and get your contracts locked up. Because otherwise, a lot of the candidates are going to have some pretty significant contractual fiscal obligations that the board may have to pay on behalf of the other candidates so that that person can come.
Okay.
So I know you guys, Aaron, you have, what is your buyout if somebody resigns right now?
For me personally?
No, for an administrator or a teacher.
Teachers are 500 or 300 depending on the time, and then administrators range from 3,000 to 5,000.
Yeah, and a lot of sitting superintendents may be between $10,000 and $15,000 to buy out of their contracts.
Because all of these candidates, unless they're, not a candidate at them, or a sitting superintendent now or administrator, all have contracts through June 30th of this year, correct?
Correct, but they usually, almost everyone who's gonna apply has already signed with an intent to be under contract again, because everyone has rolling contracts. But again, if you wanna move and do something this summer, the ethical piece for the North Fond du Lac School District is to ensure that no other school system suddenly doesn't have a senior level leader in August, and then the other piece is the best people out there are not gonna apply for jobs and leave their systems in August and September. So really, as a board, you have two kind of nice options, the way Aaron has set this up with you, that, he didn't just, that he's resigning effective in December. If we run a fall search, it will be, I mean, to be really honest, and I did share this with Aaron, it will be tough to get somebody who can start on January 1st. Just because they're gonna have to leave their system and resign mid-year someplace else. However, it can be done, and it can be done delicately and gently, where, North Fond du Lac may be in a position where they have a superintendent of schools who they're sharing with another school district during a transitionary period. Where, the other school district, let's say you hire a high school principal or an assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction, that you might be in a position where you don't have a 260-day contract with that person, that you've got like a 100-day contract with them between January and July, and then they go into a 260 contract the following year. But in between, maybe they're Monday, Wednesday, Friday in North Fond du Lac one week, and Tuesday, Thursday in North Fond du Lac the next week. We've worked that out in a couple of organizations. Either way, whatever you decide tonight, if you choose to work with me, I'll shepherd you through to success, because North Fond du Lac is a really important part of our CISA.
What about, I guess my biggest concern about timing, and I'd like to hear from you having experience with this, is the pool of candidates. It changes, I don't know, the standard or the common way, or I don't know, however we were talking about before, superintendents to be are gearing up, around the end of the year, thinking, am I going to try this time or whatever. How does that change if we go now? Is there much of a difference or a problem?
So I'm going to tell you the same thing I told the Fond du Lac School District. The pool for superintendents of schools is not deep. There's a lot of fish in a very shallow pond, but they're not all qualified. We'll run a search and we'll have 35 people apply, and there'll be a choir teacher from Stevens Point who's never been an administrator in the pool. I feel very confident because as soon as Aaron said the board was open to some options here, I started making some phone calls. I believe that if we were to post now, the only harm we would have is that I would come to you as your, kind of guide and consultant on this and tell you the pool's not deep enough, we're going to have to wait till fall. Or come to you and say, there are two highly qualified people in here, and we recommend that you just interview two. And then you interview the two, and then if you as a board say, we're not comfortable with those two, then you repost. And then we go into the fall. Now, if we go into the fall, I'm going to recommend that you guys start right off the bat in October. And then we've got that closed up and ready to go before the middle of December.
All right, so it's possible, right? You're not telling us that, don't do it. It is possible to find a qualified, and we'll just have to see how it goes.
Are there people under me?
No, there's just one else here, Tiffany Dolan, she's a teacher and
Sure,
administrator. And then you're on Oriole TV and you have 6 people watching right now.
Awesome. So the reason I asked that is because I feel pretty comfortable and confident that if you chose to go now, that I know right now that there are 2 quality people who have inquired about it. So whether or not they'll apply, I don't know, but I mean, I guess, you're the board, you do what you want to do. I think that if we posted it, we can at least see what the candidate pool looks like and provide you options.
Okay.
But again, that's up to you for what your timing, what you want to do.
And just as far as me, if you find somebody and the board likes that person, they can't start until August 1st because they have to transition or anything. Remember, I'm here to help. So whatever that looks like, however that is, or, even, going forward. So I'm even here to help if there has to be some sort of transition or anything, even into the fall with the founding, work a couple, serve here a couple days, run some meetings. So what my goal is as I reflected from last week too, is just, we got a lot of great things going here and I want, a lot of people, sometimes it's okay what's out there. And the bottom line is, if something happens and there's nothing that the board finds conducive, stuck with me a little longer, which I'm ready to run it a little bit more. So I think we might be, just use that because I really want, this wasn't the best timing ever, but I really want to help out the best that I can.
So I hope I can ask this, and this is more to do with cost to us. So if we're gonna do this now, and I mean, if it works out great, if it doesn't, then we're going again. Is this 2 separate fees? What is it for you? 1 fee?
Well, it's just, you're one of our owners, right? And we're one of your owners. So no, you would go under 1 contract with us for the year. It's 90, I think it's like $99,000 or $9,500. And if we run it out now and it doesn't work, I'm not charging you again. We want to do a successful placement here for you and just ensure that we have that. Most of those fees, a good chunk of that goes to the other 2 consultants for their time. And then the rest is really for materials and other components. So, the difference between us and other firms is that we will be the mentor of the new superintendent. We also pay others to mentor the superintendent. I come in usually your first or second meeting with the new superintendent. I facilitate that high performing board training. Again, we create a new mission. We onboard the new superintendent. We have the superintendent and the board president sit down and do lane assignments and all those different components. If I were to predict, okay, so I'm sorry, I'll stop. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And the reason I wanted to add those other components in is because if I were to predict, you're not going to get a sitting superintendent as your finalist. Now, I don't know that for sure, but I've run the pools out, and North Fond du Lac being a small system would be a lateral move for other small system superintendents, and that's going to draw a different type of candidate than you getting a lot of, large system administrators, so principals out of large school districts who run big systems. You're very likely going to have high school principals and middle school principals who have, run buildings as big as the whole district, and then assistant superintendents from other mid to large size school districts who are looking for that opportunity to lead. And very honestly, you've got to remember that the average lifespan of a superintendent in the state of Wisconsin is under 2 years. Just about, I want to say 30% of the superintendents in the entire state are turning over this year. So as a board, how we onboard, how we attract, and how we treat the new person, it's going to be really, really critical for sustaining them. So I'm really sensitive to that and then working with you. So, it'll be a good problem to have.
Ted, I've read things about the recent April election too, where there's been more turnover, and I don't want to get political at all, but have you seen anything where maybe superintendents are a little bit dissatisfied and might normally not be looking as a result of board changeover?
Yep, and most of them have applied and gotten positions.
I see.
And a lot of others have left the profession or left the state. So, I mean, I've got a pretty good pulse on the region, and superintendents are looking for positions. And that's why I said it might be interesting, even if you say like, we'd like to just test the waters for the summer to see what's out there. Just to see what type of talent we can attract. And like I said, I have spoken to some people, and I do know that there are some quality people who are interested.
Awesome.
Any other questions, or Ted, any other part of your agenda that I interrupted there before?
No, like I said, I wanted to hear from you kind of what you wanted to do. And the reason is we'd have to be pretty aggressive about calendaring. And on the CISA 6 end, while I might be the face of it, you're gonna be working with 6 different people. So you're gonna work with our HR specialist, you're gonna work with 3 communication specialists, you're gonna work with my assistant. So we have a lot of horsepower behind this to make sure that it goes well.
All right.
I don't really have any other questions.
Okay.
What other questions do you have for me?
I wasn't clear on that date for interviews. Was it 6:20 or 6:30?
6:20.
Okay.
It's a Monday.
Okay.
And the reason is because, and I'll just back this up with you. So the majority of school districts in the state of Wisconsin have their school board meetings on Tuesdays. And this would position us to get ahead of a lot of announcements and a lot of other final pieces. So anyone who's applying right now for the job is applying in other places. And if you had come to a decision and we were the desired destination for that person, we would be able to beat other contract approvals by being on that Monday. After that, you're going into July, which is a fake month, right? So nobody works in the first week of July. Very few people work in the second week of July. So getting people, vacations, all that stuff. So that's why the accelerated condensed timeline here in June. What else?
Ted, is there any concern going with CISA 6 instead of looking at other firms? Or I know you had mentioned how you're a little bit different, but I mean, right now I really appreciate you coming and letting the board know just a little feedback on that for the board about the different firms or what that would look like or how that would impact timelines.
Sure. So, and again, if you have time and you want to, you should put out an RFP. Now, board policy, how much, Aaron, at what dollar threshold do they have to put out an RFP?
I believe it's over, I want to say, I'd have to look for specific. I'll find out specifically.
It's usually like over $10,000 or $20,000.
Yeah.
The difference is then you're gonna be interviewing the other firms, and that takes time. And then their posting processes and everything else. And again, we only do this in response to districts who want to run that process out. So if you want references, you can call the school board president of Kokona, the school board president of Oshkosh. We can give you those references. But where we're different is we're never going to place anyone in your district or even recommend anyone who's not going to be able to meet your standard, because CISA never leaves you, right? I don't know where Hutchinson, Miller, and Schmitz goes when they go back to Des Moines. I made that up, but it sounded cool, so just go with it.
Okay.
But if we were in fall and you ran a traditional process, I would recommend that you talk to others just to see like, what do they do, what are their processes like?
Well, I think if we choose to move quickly, I think there's some advantages with that, but, we need to consider that. But it makes sense. So. All right.
You answered all my questions. I don't have any other questions.
Do you have any more searches going on right now? By any chance? Or any other?
No, we only do a handful a year, so, like I said, we placed Lamira, back in March, and then we had done Kakona, but in CISA 6, Campbellsport was run by Wisconsin Association of School Boards. We weren't considered there because one of their school board members is an employee of ours. Slinger appointed internally, Aaron appointed internally, and, when I go around the CISA, a lot of districts, Appleton appointed internally. We've got a lot of turnover, but a lot of internal, intentional advancement, where the school board had for years known that there was a superintendent in waiting.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Well, we appreciate your time. Ted, I know you're a busy guy, and it worked out well on the virtual, I think.
Yeah, no, I apologize, they couldn't be there in person, because I would have brought posters, pens, and some free, pads and stuff for you guys. Love to get those. And the only other thing for you as a board is I know tonight's a special meeting of the board. When's your next school board meeting itself?
Next Monday night.
Next Monday night. So I actually had that set aside. I took it off my calendar, but if you decide that you want to, move forward, then I would say that, what you would do is you would post, Aaron would send me a note saying that that's the direction you want to go. I would send you a contract, you would approve the contract Monday, and then we would go into closed session. And I could probably run out, if we're gonna move that fast for Monday, we could run out some of the pieces, and then start to preview some potential candidates, and then get it posted, and just make sure that we're all legal, and we provide for you all of those components. And that's another thing that we do, is at the end, we give you a modern superintendent contract that's completely up to date, protects the board, and then positions the superintendent for the future.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and then the only other thing I would expect is some Kroger coupons. Not paying full price for Johnsonville products.
You get fuel points.
Fuel points.
Yeah, go to the BP.
Those are golden.
They are gold now.
Roller for dogs at Quick Trip. All right, everybody, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah,
thank you for your time. Mr. Sadoff, I'll pop in this week to pick up those letters, tell them I greatly appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you, Ted. Appreciate it. And then, after the board has a conversation, I'll get back to you.
Okay, be well, everyone. Thank you.
Take care.
Go Orioles.
Woo-hoo.
Okay. What can we do under this agenda item here? Do we want
We can talk.
we can discuss the.
Yeah, and I think, discussing the process, since you're not talking about anybody specific, like he said that, like next Monday, if this is the decision you go to close. And the reason you do that, because you might talk about specific people or specific things. But currently, when you look at how you want to go about the process, since there isn't a specific person tied or a name, that's all in open. So this would be the time where, after you heard from Ted, have that conversation about what would you like to do, and what you would like me to help to organize, or how to help out. So that's I think what the conversation right now would be.
Yeah. All right. I guess I'll start by saying I feel a little bit better tonight after talking with Ted a little bit about the quickness of moving. I had some reservations about that, but the fact that if we don't find that person that we think is the person, we can go again, or push it back, or keep talking as we go. Sounds like there could be some people out there that we would love, and that are district employees and community members, students deserve that level. So my other thought is if we want to do it quick, then I think this is the best avenue to go with CISA. He's geared up and ready to go. Having done the whole step with interviewing search firms, that takes time. They all have pretty similar processes, but by the time we got that done, we could have this pretty well in motion with CISA. So that would be my recommendation.
RFP is 25,000.
Okay.
Maria, she was one of the 6 watching. So,
Are they off now too? Or?
no, Oriole TV will keep going on with the conversations.
Other thoughts?
Go ahead.
I haven't, yeah, I mean, I'm still in line with what my thoughts were last week. I tried to find cons, right, pros and cons as we went through, and the cons of going early, I didn't have many, right, other than the missing of vetting out what search firm we would use. But Ted talked about a lot of important things with like onboarding and the retention of the superintendent. I think that's going to be important for us to, as we work through this process, even if it's at a fast pace, that we always keep that in mind when we select. So I'm in favor of, going now because I think this is a good time based on what he said and based on some of our discussion points.
To your point about the after work, that was new from anything that I experienced with the other 3 searches. I think I got a call. I was present during a couple of them. Got a call from the search person, a month or 2 in, and just asked how things were going and stuff. But that was pretty well. And I'm sure because we had paid them, had we needed them, we could have, they would have been cooperative. But I just like that he's talking about that up front too, that he would be here, not say, see, we have 3 more to do now. So.
And I was through this process with Oshkosh last year. So I went through that process where interviewed with the group, with the stakeholders, and then had a tour, and then interviewed with the board. And then the prior ones with Tara Villalobos and Dr. Mark Hansen with that. So been through those. So it's I think as Ted had said, he focuses more of an executive type of search. There's some superintendent searches that have more input and a lot of different interviews and sometimes site visits and stuff like that. So theirs is a little more streamlined and focused on, as he said, the board hires 1 person and making sure that not only does their reputation stand on who we hire, but then also be there to help them out. So.
Okay.
Well, I like this call out around us being compassionate to the person that if we find someone selected and where they're coming from too, right? And the timing now fits into that still, right? If he would have said that, hey, that might leave a lasting impression on that district or that they're coming from, that might change it, right? Because I want to make sure we're doing this the right way as well for that person in the district they're leaving from, but it was the opposite, so.
And that's, you got me. So if this person can't really start till August or 15, you got me. So I'm all in.
That was a very good point. And I just happened to read an article recently, and just for comparison purposes, it talked about one college football coach that was fired, and the after effect affected 250 different schools and coaches because that one guy left, somebody came there, and the whole thing started hopping. So that's part of the game, whether you hire them in February to start in July, or if we hire them in end of June, or him or her, because there's outstanding female candidates out there too. We had one here. So. All right.
I'm comfortable as well moving forward. I think we're in a good position to be able to do that. Like it's been said over and over that if we don't find the right one, if we have Aaron's here to work with, and we have to wait until the fall to select someone, we're in a good position to do that. So.
I had a lot of questions of the process. He answered all of them that I had. I think the timeline is good. Yeah, it's aggressive, but it has to be if we're gonna do what we want to do. I'm probably gonna repeat everything that, we've just heard, so I like the timeline. He's not going to, we're gonna be sensitive to other districts because we surely don't wanna be in that position if it ever happens again, that we're gonna be, somebody at the wrong time. So, and it will be, he'll work with that if that happens to be what happens. And, the same thing, I was curious as far as the contract went because whether we go with him or somebody else, are we gonna have to pay this twice if we do it twice and how that works? So that answered my question, which was a positive. The con, maybe we don't have a full, but we can make that decision then if we don't and I like the stakeholder part of it because I'm always curious what people think, but yet it's still our decision to make. And so I think it covers all the bases and I like that. So I'm ready to move if that's what we decide.
Yeah, I am too. I'm good with everything. I liked Ted. I liked when he gave his presentation. I liked him tonight. Like he said, CISA's here. They're not gonna abandon us. I'm good to go.
Okay. Well,
So what I will do then, if this is from what I'm hearing from the board, what I'll do is I'll give Ted a call and then Ted will get in touch with you, Steve. Start working out some things. And then what I'll do is I'll have an action item on the agenda in new business to discuss and consider CISA 6 as running the hiring process for the next district administrator and rock and roll. Then he'll be able to work. One nice thing too is the documents that will be produced, like the summary of the school district. That'll be a really nice thing that we'll be able to keep moving forward too. So, So what I will do then is the will of the board, I will give Ted a call and then we will go from there. And then he'll probably then put in, try to get him here for closed session next week so that he can be in here for that and move forward. So I will do that and I'll update you tomorrow on how the conversations go.
Can you just answer so Dr. Mark Hansen, who was the?
Tara Villalobos. So Tara Villalobos, she is, she's at Holy Hill, which was Freeze Lake and Richland combined. Yep, and that's a K-8 feeder to Hartford Union High School. And then Dr. Hansen, he's also, he's on the governing board with me too at AASA. Very nice man, very intellectual and fun too. Knows what he's doing. All right. Well, hey,
Okay.
and you know what? After a week too, I'm really excited and I am here to help in any way. We'll see what happens. So then I just want the board to know that however you go and what happens, if the board feels, gotta wait, I'm here for you. And I'm excited. The more I've reflected this past week, this district is an amazing place. And, change is good. Change is real good sometimes. And I'm excited to be a community member still and help with the process and be here even after the hiring to be a phone call away for any questions. So, yeah.
Well, and that was one of the first hesitations that I had last week was that you are available, a very valuable resource that we could have used if we wait or, whatever happens here. But things happen, you got to react and move on. So we'll get it done.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. The next item then on the agenda is to discuss and consider educator contracts for the 2022-2023 school year.
And you'll see that there's 3 right now: April Elstead at Horace Mann High School, Kristen Ide at Trefford Way. We've got Tiffany around. Talk a little bit about Kristen.
Yeah, we're really excited to welcome Kristen to our staff. She previously worked here in North Fond du Lac. She ran 4K and 5K special ed co-teaching situations and was a phenomenal teacher in that role. She took a few years off raising her children and she's ready to step back into the world of teaching, and we are very excited to have her join our team. So
Excellent. Good. And then the other contract is Amanda Weed, which will go from 70% to 100% because she's going to also then be filling in at Trefford. So,
Well, you're filling one of the positions.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. There were some others in the.
yeah, those were just some. There was just a couple misprints One had that 1% instead of 100%. And then with Margaret, we had to go 95%, Title I not 100%, just for some funding things. So, but all good.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion then to approve the contracts as presented.
So moved.
I'll second. Roll call?
Matthew,
Yes.
Huck,
Yes.
Goldowski, yes, Jaeger,
Yes.
Steckman.
Yes.
All right, the next item on the agenda is item G, to discuss and consider the superintendent contract. We have a possibility that we'll have to table this. There's, I guess, some concerns on the proposal that you brought, and maybe we need to talk about that in closed session. Is that?
I just made the changes that you guys had told me. So if you want to talk, if you want to do other changes than that,
I guess the termination clause isn't what at least it wasn't my understanding. Because it says by mutual consent.
Mhm.
I thought specified we'd give you 15 days notice.
oh, okay, well,
That
if you want.
it wasn't mutual consent, it was we'd give you 15 days notice, was the way I remembered it.
Yeah, and I think
I can change that tonight and put it in there.
Well, I've got some other questions too, I guess, but I mean, that's the main one.
okay. I think if I'm understanding correctly, it wasn't, a change to get you out in 15 days all of a sudden. It was to keep the control over the contract to the board because you're contracted to the board, I guess, if I'm not misunderstanding.
If we want to have that specific in there, I'm okay with a week or whatever it would take, whoever that person would be or how long you want. So whatever the will of the board is, I can make those adjustments for sure. And we can talk about that.
So I guess, well, here's just some, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm just making sure that we don't have to do this in closed. Are we
Well,
good to discuss this now?
we don't, there's not a rule that says we can't do it in open session. It's just,
If it's more than the mutual consent for I think this is a pretty, if there's something, otherwise what we can do is we can just put it in and, we'll meet next week. So we can just do it next Monday too. That'd be okay.
might be best, seeing it's based again on an individual. I don't.
That's my concern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and I don't want to be mysterious in that. I think it's, we're gonna work together here all the way through.
Absolutely.
And then, the board is aware of the value that you've provided.
Well, I do have a couple things. You tell me if we have to wait until this is closed or not. So I got two questions to start with. One, have you actually resigned?
No, when this goes, then I'll be resigned as of the 31st of December. So it'll be two
So
things,
you haven't-
the acceptance of the contract and then my resignation also.
Okay, so in your mind, you haven't resigned yet. And then I guess the other question is, so here's the problem. I thought about this after we left last week, is we're negotiating a contract here, right? And we've got Aaron, and again, don't take this personally, but just the way, my understanding of the way this should work is the board should be working with the attorney directly, saying, here's what we want. The attorney should be protecting the board. Aaron should have an attorney that protects his interest. It shouldn't be the same attorney. That's a conflict of interest. And it shouldn't be Aaron going to the lawyer on behalf of the board. The optics of that are just bad, right? Say something goes awry later on, and we say to the residents of the districts, well, Aaron went to the lawyer, and Aaron came back, and Aaron said this, and not that I'm saying he would mislead us or anything like that. It's just the optics of it is, it's our responsibility to negotiate on behalf of the district. It's Aaron's job, rightfully so, to negotiate what's best for Aaron. Now, if we end up mutually agreeing on that, that's great, and that's hopefully how it ends up. But Aaron shouldn't be using, for example, the clause about, one of the clause, I won't get specifics, I don't want to do anything with the closing. One of the clauses in there, or a couple of them are to his distinct advantage, which is fine, but it shouldn't be the board paying the lawyer to put in language that's beneficial to Aaron.
We can just go and close with this, Rick, and then what I will do, if Steve wants, the lawyers are, like you said, they're the school district's lawyers, and whatever the will of the board is to talk with them, and then if you want to counter or whatever, I'm all good with that. I'm looking at streamlining and just doing things efficiently, but I totally get that. I'm there to support whatever's, the board's will is.
Yeah, I think it should be you talking to the lawyer about this. And then if Aaron has objections to what we come back with, then he can either handle it himself or get an attorney to draft what he thinks it should be. I mean, I think that's the right way to do it from a board perspective and what we owe the district.
Yeah, I can't argue with you that that's not correct. I guess I look at it a little less formal, maybe, as long as we're agreeing, the parties are agreeing, but if we want to do it, so it passes the test and that, I'm fine with that.
So,
Yeah, that's my opinion. I mean, I don't want to be the only one speaking.
so I think with that point, Rick, then, if there are things that the board doesn't want in that contract because the balance of beneficiality or whatever that is, then I think there has to be a different conversation next week, Monday, where you discuss what you really want my contract to look like. And then after you have that conversation, however you want to work with Mike Verstegen or however it is, so whatever that looks like, you just let me know and I will be at the will of the board. But that will be a conversation then that you guys should have about, well, this contract, what I have put in there, you're like, no, yes, no, whatever that is, and then we can have that conversation. So.
And I do have a couple questions I want to ask the lawyer, so I don't know if that's something I can.
So Steve Steve talks to the lawyer. If Steve allows, that way if Steve then, the president then can allow other board members to use that resource too. But that goes through Steve.
Yeah, that's by policy, but, all right, well, yeah,
I just didn't know if I could talk to him about it or not.
You can if Steve allows that. Otherwise, what we'd end up having is have, everybody calling the lawyers at
Right,
different
no, I don't
times.
want to call a lawyer. I'm fine with him I just want to give him the questions to ask the
Oh,
lawyer.
absolutely.
I don't necessarily need to be the one talking to him.
all right, that's fine. I think good idea to have it run by him and make sure there's nothing in there that he says the board should be careful about this or that, and we'll work it out. We'll hammer that out, and I'll need to get the input from you then, and all of it, if you have any concerns about this last draft.
I would say then since we don't, and this would be more of a close, but if you individually contact Steve, give him that information, then if you have any, I would say email at Steve any questions, or if you talk to him individually, we just don't want to have a walking quorum and that isn't on there. And then what I'll do is I'll get you Mike's phone number, and then I think David Waller or whoever with Boardman and Clark that does the contract laws, who you then would talk with. I have the contract. I'll get that to Steve also as a Word document that then they've seen the majority of it already and have been through it. But then if there's some changes or something, put them in there and then we'll have that conversation.
Okay.
Then on next week, Monday and close, not only talk about candidate pools and things like that, but then also talk about what the contract looks like for me.
Okay, and let's do that quickly then, so we can get that ready for next Monday night then, because I'd like to get it finalized pretty soon, so. Yeah, why don't you individually give me your thoughts or your questions, and so we don't have a conversation back and forth. I'll just take all that, put it together, and talk to the attorney. And, if there's any follow-up questions from the attorney about, well, what does this mean or that, I'll get back to you individually then to find out more.
With the idea that there'll be some sort of contract to look at and discuss next week, Monday, and then if there's any negotiations or hammering out, we do it then. Right?
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Hopefully, that's the plan.
Well, if not, I just want to make sure that I have some security too on this process, so.
Absolutely.
So I'm hoping, otherwise our next board meeting is the 27th of June. And things are gonna start to ramp up pretty good, so, and whatever I can do to help, I'll be there.
No, I mean, you need to take care of yourself too, so there's no doubt about that. And like I said, hopefully everything meshes, but I do have a couple questions.
Excellent.
Okay. Good. Nothing else then? Take motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Sorry, my brain was like. John, you seconded. Okay,
Roll call.
Matthew,
Yes.
Geckerman,
Yes.
Hack,
Yes.
Wadowski, yes, Jaeger.
Yes.
All right.
All right, Oriole Nation, until next Monday, 7 o'clock. All right, we'll see you then. We'll be celebrating the top 10 at Horace Mann High School in our Vexro box going down to Worlds in Texas. See you next week, Monday, 7 o'clock. And we're